Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Two Saints at the Euros, which is the Two Saints podcast show. And so we just played you our new theme music, which was very kindly done for us by our good friend Stuart Jebbett, who also did our Two Saints intro music that you normally listen to. So just to remind you, we have an email address for the show, which is the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com. That's for any questions about the show, any features you'd like to see, or anything else to do with it. And just a way to contact both of us and let us know, positive or negative, if you like what we're doing or you don't. And we can't do the show without you, so please get involved. And just to remind you, the ways of accessing the podcast show are the following. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints podcast show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. Right, there we go. So, coming up in the first half of today's Two Saints at the Euros, we have Denmark 1, Belgium 2, and Denmark 4, Russia 1, Scotland 0, England 0, and Scotland 1, Croatia 3, England 1, Czech Republic 0, Spain 1, Poland 1, Poland 1, Sweden 3. So there we go. Very, very busy, packed show for you. So just a few words coming up, and once we've done those, we'll be back.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. So today's introductions, I'm Mark C, obviously the host, and I'll hand over to my co-host, Mark H. Got a few things to say to everybody. Afternoon, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, everything's going well. I haven't got a lot to say for it, to be fair, but yeah, thanks for that.
Makes change. No, I'm joking.
Just basically, I hope that the Saints fraternity are taking care of one another, and and hopefully, come start of August or middle of August, we will be back in the stadium cheering on the Saints.
Can't wait. Yeah, and I might even be back there as a season ticket holder myself. So, hey,
promises.
No, that's more of a threat, isn't it? Anyway, so coming up for you, we've now got the Two Saints at the Euros review of Denmark 1, Belgium 2, and Denmark 4, Russia 1. So De Bruyne sends Belgium into the last 16. He certainly did, and in some style as well. That was obviously Denmark versus Belgium. And then obviously, Denmark sealed their qualification with a 4-1 win over Russia. But getting to the Denmark-Belgium game, what a start from Denmark, Mark. I mean, literally a minute on the clock, Poulsen scores for Denmark, and the Parken Stadium in Copenhagen absolutely erupted, didn't it? If ever there was a goal that you wanted to dedicate to Christian Eriksen, that was it, wasn't it? That was the moment, and that was the goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate that on this occasion they couldn't get the win. But
yeah, absolutely.
Certainly their play, certainly in the first half, really at the end of the day, they probably should have had the game to bed at half-time. But
yeah. Well, in all fairness, if Belgium didn't have De Bruyne to bring on, they would have been in big trouble, wouldn't they?
I've got to go along with that to a certain degree. I think, for me, Belgium struggled to get the grips with the game and the occasion. I've got to say, it was a bit of an occasion, obviously off the back of what happened to Christian Eriksen, and thankfully he's fine. But at the start of the game, Thomas Vermaelen came out with a Christian number 10 shirt. It was either Christian or Eriksen on the back, and it had all been signed by the coaching staff and the players. And obviously that was presented on the pitch before kickoff. But I've got to say, Belgium were lackluster in the first half, and really Denmark should have taken much more of an advantage from that. I mean, Thomas Vermaelen looked like he was playing football on Southampton Common or Hackney Marshes. He was that bad, Denmark did play well in that first half. The goes 1-0 up, scorer obviously was Poulsen. You had a situation then where in the second half, probably for the first 10 minutes even, Denmark looked like they were on top. Belgium then go and score through Eden Hazard's brother, funnily enough. and they score to make it one each, and then from then on for the last 40, say 35 minutes of the game, there's only one team that's going to go on and win the game, and that was Belgium. And like you say, De Bruyne comes on, and he did have the desired effect. I mean, obviously he assisted for Hazard's goal, and then Eden Hazard then assisted for his goal. So at the end of the day, Denmark didn't take advantage, but and it was sort of sad for that, because they should have been home and hose probably by half time, and they weren't, because they didn't take the opportunities to present themselves.
Absolutely.
And you knew that Belgium were going to come out a much better side in the second half, because the performance in the first half was woeful. So then we'll move on to Joy of Joys, which was obviously the Russia game, and basically, Mark.
If you're going to qualify, that's the way to do it, isn't
it? You gotta love the Russians, because sort of from the 15th minute onwards, right, and certainly in the first half, right, they're time wasting. You know what I mean? Yep. And the way they did it as well, the big striker that plays up front for them, right? I mean, there was certain tactics that he was employing, right, and he's smiling into the camera as he, sort of cheeky little grin to himself, as if to say, this is all panning out how we expected, right? And then, of course, Damsgaard then goes and scores for Denmark. I think it was about 5 minutes, 6 minutes before half time. And, then it kind of, the mood sort of kind of changes, even though you had a situation where, Russia obviously pulled one back, but it's not before Poulsen scores again for Denmark in this fixture to make it 2-0. Really, at the end of the day, they got overwhelmed. You had, Christensen scored on, I think it was about 10 minutes to go, and then probably 6 minutes to go of normal time. That well-tuned Saints target from Ireland, from Ireland scores, but you're sort of sat there, and you kind of think to yourself, 4-1, hell of a performance, really, because don't forget, before the ball was kicked, the Russians are the ones that are in the box seat for qualification. I'd also have to say that Højbjerg actually, for once, he actually impressed me. Assisted for 2 of the goals. I can't, particularly about Vestergaard, I can't say, that he had a particularly taxing evening, so can't really read anything into his form. But yeah, I mean, it was, look, at the end of the day, it's objective number one. They've managed to get out of the group. They're probably buoyed by it. Maybe there is a bit of what's happened with Christian, Eriksen galvanizing them and making them do certain things that you probably wouldn't see from a Danish national side. But then, I mean, 4 goals is not something that you would regularly see from a Danish national side. That's for sure.
Very true. Very true. Well, the last Danish side score that many was probably, what was it, 89, 90 last time Denmark scored that many goals in the European Championship?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's a year they won it, wasn't it?
But the thing I was going to say, Mark, was as well is that going into Saturday or Sunday when they play Wales, I forget which day it is. I think it's Saturday they're playing them, but if it isn't, it's Sunday. The strange thing is, there's going to be, the whole world's going to be behind Denmark. It'll be interesting to see what happens, really. I mean, obviously being a Celt, I'm going to be rooting for the Welsh, but
Yeah.
you know, but certainly the rest of the world will be definitely cheering on the Danish, and it'll be. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting game to see how it all pans out.
So we're just going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we're going to be doing reviews of Scotland 0, England 0, England 1, Czech Republic 0, and Scotland 1, Croatia 3. We'll be right back. From Thursday, the 17th of June, we're bringing you Two Saints at the Euros, which will run for the duration of the competition. It will feature games involving England, Scotland, Denmark and Poland. Because some of these involve Saints players, we will have regular features like Saints club news, other football news and Saints transfer gossip. Still broadcasting on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton, Thursday 1 to 3 PM and via onlineradiobox.com. Right, welcome back, everybody. So, coming up now, we've got the Two Saints at the Euros review of Scotland 0, England 0, and England 1, Czech Republic 0. And after that, we've also got an interview that Mark H did with Hugh Bartlett, who very kindly covered Scotland 1, Croatia 3 for us because he was actually at the game at Hampden. So, well done to Hugh for doing that, and thanks very much for doing that again, Hugh. So, that'll be coming up after we've done our review of Scotland 0, England 0, and England 1, Czech Republic 0. So, Scotland, England, Mark, 0-0. Didn't really live up to the hype, did it? Overhyped, over whatever. And over and done with.
I mean, all I would say, Mark, is there's still people talking about it now, and I sort of sit there and think, I mean, I suppose the thing you would say is because these events don't happen regularly enough, I suppose you want to make the most of it when they do happen. I mean, I have to say that, and he's going to be referenced a lot during this part of the review, but, Rio Ferdinand basically had turned around and said that there should be a return to sort of, the same kind of tournament, whether it's a different format or not, of the sort of British Home Championship or something like that. I mean, and I'm all in favour of it, mate, to be honest with you. I mean, the thing is I suppose for a lot of the fans, especially when it comes to the England-Scotland games, and this is something that I don't really understand, right? Because after they decided to do away with the British Home Championship, for a number of seasons, there was just the England and Scotland game, and they played for the Sir Stanley Rice Cup. So I don't know why that was ever shelved, But look, let's concentrate on the game. So England 0, Scotland 0. And my viewpoint still hasn't changed since we were talking about it the other day. I think the thing is England were fairly dominant in the first 15 minutes, and they did have numerous chances, although the only one that I can actually remember is John Stones' header. But there was other chances in that opening 15 minutes. And I think the thing was for me, England didn't take advantage of the dominance early doors. Yep. So as soon as you're not taking advantage of anything that you're creating, you let the door open for Scotland in the sense that they gain confidence, they grow in the game, and I do think that was the case.
Definitely. In England were lucky as well. I mean, at one point, obviously, Scotland had a really good chance. Brilliant save from Jordan Pickford, but obviously, as he got his hand to the ball, it ballooned up, and it missed Shay Adams by literally inches. Shay Adams was literally inches away from getting his head on it, and if his head connected with that, it's in. And England in big trouble there. It would have been 1-0 to Scotland. Which, to be fair, they would have deserved at that moment in time. So we did get off a little bit. Great save from Pickford, but we were very lucky where it went. Because, as I say, it just missed Shay Adams' head. If he could have got to that, he definitely would have put it away.
It's like a say, Mark, the initial thing was You don't take your chances, and you knew that if chances aren't taken early doors, or a chance isn't taken early doors, Scotland were always going to grow into the game.
Yeah.
And be comfortable, because I've got to be honest. It's always slightly difficult, because all British affairs, in terms of football wise, whether it's England, Scotland, could be Wales, England, whatever. They're always tight, kind of nervy affairs. And this, to me, was absolutely no different. It went exactly how I scripted it, because, I know we watched it on a watch along, and I said even before kickoff, it's got 0-0 written all over it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, and I do think the other thing that you've got to remember as well is, there's a lot of, it's not just even the fact that it's England, Scotland, although that comes into it. It's the fact that both teams are playing each other in a major tournament.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the thing is you don't want to lose it. And a lot of what Gareth Southgate did on the night for me, there was the initial sort of attacking intent, and then it settled down. And I thought tactically, he had settled for England not to lose on the
night. In all fairness, Gareth Southgate's approach to the whole of the championship so far has been, if you can't win, don't lose.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, it worked.
That's fine. It's fine in terms of qualifying out of your group. And it's worked. The process has worked. What I would say is different nature of the beast now, but we'll come on to that. So not particularly surprised that Billy Gilmore got man of the match, but the thing that's kind of sort of, I'm going to touch on it now. So I'm going to move on to the England 1, Czech Republic 0 game. I've got to say, mate, and I'll say this to you now, there's a lot being said about the young players, right? And I've stated to you that they need a couple of tournaments or a tournament before they get to what it's all about. And one person who's had a couple of tournaments is Raheem Sterling, and England are reaping the benefits of that. I genuinely believe that. He has said about his own season that it wasn't a particularly great season for him by his own high standards, and that's fair enough. But he's certainly blossoming at the moment during this championship, while others maybe, because I don't blame Harry Kane. I think you've got to have the ammo to be able to score the goals, and I'm not sure he's had the service. Lot of talk about creative players in the England squad and in the England team, but to a degree they seem to be misfiring for me, because obviously the opportunities, and maybe they're falling to other people, but they're not falling to Harry Kane. And the other thing I wanted to say very briefly, Mark, and I forgot to say it when we were talking about the game, right? But you know me, I'm over everything, right? And the nonsense and hype that was spoken by ex-Scotland players, ex-England players, it was ridiculous.
Absolutely.
In the build-up to the game, right? And in particular, Rio Ferdinand, it was obvious to me that he probably hasn't seen Scotland play in the last 10 years. Similarly, right? And, I know I said this to you previously, and I'm going to say it again so people know where I'm coming from, right? From the Scottish point of view, you've just qualified first time in 20 odd years, whatever it is, for qualifying for a major tournament, right? And you're talking yourself up about qualifying out of the group. That's the first fatal mistake, considering you've never you've never done it before.
Yeah.
That would be the first thing I would say. But the fact that you're there and it's your first tournament for 28 years, and all I'll say to you is this, Mark, when we were in France, right, and it was our first finals, it was Northern Ireland's first finals for 30 years, so longer, And I know we're a smaller nation, so people patronise us, but that's fine, right? Like the Welsh. But the thing is, I was sat there, and this was before, we'd gone to see, we went over to see two Northern Ireland games. We actually seen 5 matches, but we went over to see 2 Northern Ireland games. Anyway, so I'm sat there, and this is the night before, and I said to Arthur and Darren, I said, what can we expect from the tournament? And both of them turned around and said in unison, a shot on target. Now, see, if Scotland had have adopted that attitude, right? Not necessarily the supporters, but the ex-professionals, right? They probably would have had a much more enjoyable tournament.
Definitely.
Because I know I did, because
definitely.
All right, we beat the Ukraine, but that was a bonus. But all I'm trying to say is, please, people, I know it's difficult when you're listening to ex-professionals, but don't get caught up in the hype of the game, because I have never heard so much rubbish spoken in the fortnight leading up to the game, and that's either on the English side or the Scottish side. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yep, definitely.
Just needed to mention that. But anyway, getting back to the England game, obviously Raheem Sterling scores sort of halfway through the first half.
Yep.
And I thought England played really well in the first half.
Yep.
But bear in mind that the Czech Republic, for me, in the second half, completely switched off. I mean,
I'd agree with that.
They didn't even look to me as if they were interested in playing football. They seem to be much more interested in getting on the coach and getting back to the hotel.
Well, in all fairness, second half, I thought second half England just coasted it. They just sat there going, "We'll just take what we got."
Yeah, exactly. But then I think that also leads to frustration from the fans, because
100%.
obviously they're sat there going, why didn't we go for the juggler, this, that, the other? But I take entirely your point in the sense of, at the end of the day, it's job done for England, and roll on the next game, and boy,
in all fairness, I think the England players were looking at the Czech players and thinking the Czech players have already accepted their fate, kind of thing. We don't really need to play out of our skin. We don't really need to make much effort. And I think that was the problem second half. Yeah, it's quite evident. The body language of the Czech players, it was quite evident they'd pretty much thrown in the towel in. And I think the England players picked up on it.
And I think you're right to say that, because there is the element where, if both sides have qualified, you're literally going through the motions. You know what I mean? Definitely. I mean, the thing, I don't want to use an example, but I certainly remember, certain games at World Cups where both the teams had qualified and there was nothing to play for. And it did sort of smack of that, although England obviously showed greater urgency first half. I was just sort of disappointed in the second half, because Czech Republic weren't offering anything. England sort of could have gone for the juggler. I've got to say that and I know this is an early shout, it's early doors still, but Jack Grealish was given the game, and I have to say, he didn't produce a lot. I mean, I'm just comparing him with Phil Foden, but at least Phil Foden's on there, and he was producing, and maybe it may take another game during this tournament before Jack, produces. But
thing is, Mark, as well,
slightly disappointed by his display on Tuesday night.
Well, I actually think, in all fairness, I think there's a player that has to feature for England against Germany in the last 16, and that's Jadon Sancho. Plays in the Bundesliga, knows how the Germans play, and is an absolute threat. And I think the guy deserves a chance against Germany, and I'd be starting him. I'd be very tempted to start him.
I've got an issue with that. I think as well. You talk about him in the Bundesliga with
Jude Bellingham as well.
I'd like to see more of Jude Bellingham as well.
Yep. I think they both. Well, for me, they both play against Germany.
Yeah, 100%, Mark.
Big call, I know, but for me, they both start against Germany.
That's a great
question.
Yeah. I mean,
no question for me.
And they there's I hate to say it. Well, I don't hate to say it, but there's an added incentive in there when you're playing your football domestically in the country that you're playing against.
Exactly. Yeah, and they both know the German game inside out. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? For me, it's a no-brainer. Gareth, get him in there. There's no argument for me.
Yeah, I go along with that.
In all fairness, as good as Calvin Phillips was in the first game for England, I thought he'd gone a little bit off the boil since then. So for me, he's not really been there. And Grealish didn't have a great game either.
Yeah,
so for me,
he was
Bellingham and Sancho definitely.
He was back to what you would normally expect, Yeah. But what I was going to say, Mark, was I don't want to preview it too much because obviously we'll do the review next week when it happens. Yeah. But just touching on that England-Germany game, I mean, if anyone has a score to settle, it's Gareth Southgate.
Yep.
And I have to be honest, I'm looking forward to this game more than the England-Scotland game.
I'll break this to you.
I think there's scores to settle. And, the thing is, as I've said to you before, when, Northern Ireland don't qualify, I cheer on all the home nations. So Republic of Ireland.
I'll break this to you very gently.
I include the Republic of Ireland in that. Scotland, Wales, England.
Well, I'll break this to you gently. Jurgen Klinsmann was interviewed on the BBC. Gary Lineker talking to Jurgen Klinsmann. So Jurgen, England versus Germany. Jurgen Klinsmann. It'll go to penalties. Oh, come on! Goodness sake!
You know, as sure as eggs is eggs.
The second he said it, Jurgen Klinsmann was like, "Let's go to penalties."
It's whether Gareth Southgate can lay the ghost of '96. Not just the ghost of '96, but the ghost. I mean, the ghost of Italia '90. I mean, I remember taking a flexi day off work to get back, and my best friend, Marcus, and I sat in my flat. This is when I was back.
The thing is, as well, Mark, I remember watching that thinking, Chris Waddle's taking it. Freaking dead cert, that is. Not a problem. He's going to bury that.
Actually,
both the penalties that were missed, to be fair, I thought were going to get buried.
When I see the people that were stepping up to take the penalties, I just thought, never in doubt. It was the same thing with Stuart Pearce, because takes penalties for Forest. So I've got to be honest. Obviously, be cheering on England against Germany. Like I'll be cheering on Wales against Denmark on Saturday.
Definitely.
But I've got to say, Mark, and I'm sure I echo a lot of England supporters' thoughts when they say, let's hope it doesn't go to penalties.
Yeah.
Let's hope somebody shines on the day. And England beat them 2-3-0.
Yeah, so Gareth, just remember, right? We don't want penalties. So get Bellingham and Sancho in there. Job's a good one.
There's too much anxiety on it when you watch England doing penalties. It's just no.
Look, just my advice to England players: go out there, have a damn good go at Germany, and you might just get a result before penalties. Just go out and have a damn good go.
Yeah,
you've got nothing to lose. You're in the last 16. Get out there and have a damn good go at them.
They're not that. I know that
it's the worst German team they've had for a generation, Mark. It's the worst team they've had for a generation.
They're not the team they were.
This is the worst German team they've had for a generation. It's a golden opportunity. Golden opportunity. Go out there and have a damn good go at them. So anyway, moving on from there. Scotland's Euro hopes ended by Croatia. Quite emphatically, Mark, I think it's fair to say.
Yes, well.
And none more emphatic than a strike from Luka Modric. Dear
Yeah,
me.
I mean, you'll hear us talk about that in the interview with Hugh, but I mean, the thing,
It's
it's
important to mention that because obviously we are doing the interview with Hugh, but obviously that's the headline.
yeah. I mean, all I would say is Mark.
Yep.
At the end of the day, Scotland should take comfort, and I don't mean this in a patronising way,
No.
but should take comfort in the fact
Yeah.
that they've qualified. And the secret for them going forward, as far as I see it, is to continually qualify for major tournaments.
Absolutely right. So anyway, speaking of Scotland, obviously Mark did the interview with Hugh, and that's coming up next. So we'll get to that, and then obviously once we've done that, we'll be doing the two Saints at the Euros review of Spain 1, Poland 1, and Poland 1, Sweden 3. So up now, Mark's interview with Hugh Bartlett. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another in our series of Two Saints at the Euros interviews, and these are game reviews that we've done with Hugh Bartlett, who's very kindly been covering the Scotland games for us. So over to Mark H, who's going to conduct the interviews and do the introductions.
Yep. So once again, Hugh, I just want to say thanks for joining us. And obviously, we're going to be reviewing the Scotland 1, Croatia 3. And sadly, Scotland went out.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Mark. It's probably a fair reflection. It took 2.5 games for them to get their one and only goal, and that's where their problems were, unfortunately, in front of goal. We've got Dykes at QPR. He's really struggled there. He's only scored about 10 goals, and I know Che Adams, he's not necessarily a natural goal scorer. He's very much a player who brings others forwards into the game, but again, his goal scoring record isn't the best either, and that's ultimately what's cost them. And I know they also had a very bad injury to Grant Hanley, which is probably why they conceded more goals than they would have done normally. But overall,
very true. I'm interested just get your thoughts basically on the fact that obviously Shea was on the pitch, and obviously Armstrong played as well. So did you see anything of them linking up together?
No, it's the same problem as the last couple of games. Armstrong was being played too far back. He's very much a behind a striker player, is why, or sometimes out wide at Saints. He's very much an attacking minded midfielder. But when he plays as deep as that and he's expected to tackle, and he was actually man-marking Modric, which is an impossible job for most of the game. So he really did struggle to make an impression. But having said that, there were moments of magic. There was a glorious chance by McGinn in the second half. And if he scores that, which he should have done, it would have been 2 on Scotland in a completely different game. That's probably one of the crosses of the tournament. It's just a shame they didn't capitalise on that.
I have to say, Modric's goal was a cracker. Much as I've said, the legs have gone, but it was a good goal, Also, I just wanted to ask you as well. I mean, when Callum McGregor scored the equaliser for Scotland, I mean, did it look at all like they were going to go on and win the game? I know you mentioned about John McGinn, and obviously that was a highlight, to be honest with you, for Scotland. But did you feel at any stage that they were going to go on and win the game?
Well, the first 5 minutes, Croatia were on the back foot. Scotland came at them, and they must have thought Scotland were going to keep it tight and try and nick it 1-0. So that caught them by surprise. But apart from that, Croatia dominated possession, mainly from Modric, the whole game, and were well on top. So that goal actually came out of nowhere, to be fair, because Croatia had a couple of glorious chances just before that. And apart from that McGinn chance in the second half, I know Scotland had actually as many shots on goal as Croatia, but they were all pot shots or from set pieces, nothing actually too close to goal. So not really, unfortunately, Mark. I felt Croatia were well on top from start to finish.
You didn't feel that when Grant Hanley went off, obviously he's kind of a linchpin for Scotland at the back, because I think it was Tierney himself and Scott McTominay, which Scotland seems to favour playing McTominay defensively, which I always find a bit of a strange one. But when Grant Hanley went off, I think it was Scott McKenna come on. I mean, did that affect Scotland at all, in your opinion, or do you just feel that in terms of the personnel, the change wouldn't have made any difference, even if Grant Hanley was still on the pitch?
I don't think the change. Well, they probably wouldn't have conceded as many goals as they did. Perhaps they would have done better with the set piece from Perisic.
Okay.
But apart from that, I felt Croatia were very dominant. They completely marked Robertson out of the game. They had two players on him that side, and then O'Donnell really struggled against Perisic on the other side. So generally, the scoreline is a complete fair reflection of the game, and they can have no qualms. Croatia were by far the better side and deserved to go through.
And just finally, I mean, Hugh, how, after this being your third trip up to Scotland, because I don't know whether the listeners know or not, but you were actually at the Czech Republic Croatia game, which obviously we're not covering for obvious reasons, but this was your third trip. I mean, how did the atmosphere compare this time round? Because I know I spoke to you, at the weekend about the atmosphere in the Czech Republic Croatia game, and you said that the attendance was, way down. You reckoned it was 3,500.
Yeah, at a push. And I know the tickets were quite expensive. The cheapest ticket was about £80, and it went up to about 300 or 400 for the premium seats, which may be why. But I was very surprised by the low attendance, especially some of the players Croatia have got, Modric, Perisic. They're all genuinely world-class players, and I'm surprised people wouldn't have took the opportunity to have gone and see them play during the week. But in terms of the atmosphere in the game I was at yesterday, very much the same story as last time. Before the game, there was a lot of belief from the Scots. They were very up for it. But as the game went on and it was clear they were struggling, there were a bit of groans across the stadium because they know it was a glorious opportunity. It's probably going to be a long time before they actually qualify for a tournament again. And
so was it rough? I'm just wanting to know about the attendance. Was it roughly around 9,000 again then?
It was about 9,000. It was quite strange because I'm pretty certain UEFA said they could have about 12 or 13,000, and there were certain blocks of the stadium that there were hardly anyone in it. So I'm not sure why that is. But yeah, it definitely looked a couple of thousand short what it should have been.
Yeah, well, I listened. Funny enough, Hugh, I was watching the England game on the telly with the sound off, and I was listening to the Scotland game on the radio. And I have to say, Croatia they were well worth their victory. But look, thanks for coming on and sharing your thoughts and giving us a decent review.
No problem. My pleasure, Mark. Speak
Cheers.
soon.
Thanks very much, mate. Bye for
Cheers.
now.
Bye.
The Two Saints podcast show will still run over the summer, featuring Saints players at the Euros and regular features such as Saints club news, Saints transfer gossip and other football news. Ways to access the podcast are: just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints podcast show is now available via Spotify, Cloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. Right, welcome everybody, welcome back. Two Saints at the Euros review of Spain 1, Poland 1 and Poland 1, Sweden 3. Lewandowski scores as Poland holds Spain, and I thought Jan Bednarek played really well, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, against Spain, he did have a good game, to be fair. I tell you what, Poland frustrate me. Having now watched them for quite a while, they're one of those teams, Mark, right? They'll always qualify for a major tournament, right?
I think they're classed as.
They're kind of like Russia, right? Russia.
Do you think they're classed as
a major tournament?
Yeah. Do you think they're classed as perennial underachievers? Do you think that's a fair tag? I think it probably is.
What it is that, unfortunately, to give the impression, right, of they get to a tournament
Yeah.
and they're there basically to make up the numbers, right?
Yeah.
But you know that their players, right, the players within that squad or team that they've got, right, are not delivering on the big stage. And when I say the big stage, I'm talking about a Euros finals, or a World Cup finals, and that I find really frustrating. Like I said, if I was the manager or coach of Poland, it would be driving me to distraction, because they are the classic international side, a little bit like Saints in club football, right? Or when I say Saints, it doesn't always necessarily have to be Saints, but it always seems that way for us as supporters. But the thing is Poland need to go down 1-0, right? Or be losing a game before they'll react to anything that's going on in the pitch. And the thing is like, if I was in the dressing room as a manager, I'd be sat there saying to them, right, rather than reacting to what's going on in the game, and reacting to that, what about reacting when the referee blows his whistle at the start of the match? And
definitely.
And you could see yourself saying that in a Polish dressing room, or saying that in the Saints dressing room,
Definitely.
So anyway, just going to the game. So, Spain, it's a weird one with them, right? Because obviously Spain are still playing tiki-taka football, right? And they're still trying to score a perfect goal or walk the ball into the back of the net. Now, don't forget, I'm reviewing this before, obviously, the goal avalanche against Slovakia. But to be honest with you, Spain beating Slovakia 5-0 or 5-1, whatever it was I that surprised? No, I wasn't. I mean, Slovakia, I know I've got a cheek speaking ill of it here, but Northern Ireland lost to them in the final playoff for to go to the Euros. And I'll be honest with you, Mark, I was bitterly disappointed, because the Slovaks have one player, and that's basically it. And he's an aging player. And much as I made the mistake about, Mr. Modric the other day, when I turned around and said his legs have gone, he's still got a footballing brain there, but the legs have gone. But yeah, so, am I that surprised that Spain stuck 5 past Slovakia? No, not really. So we'll come to, eventually we're going to get to this game. So Morata obviously scores for Spain. Like I said, they tiki-taka football. And the problem with Spain is they're forever trying to score the perfect goal. And I think one of the issues I think that I have is that they're actually missing, a centre forward like, dare I say, Fernando Torres or something like that there. And that would probably enhance Spain. It would probably put them in there as, good chance of winning the Euros. I mean, I don't see it. So anyway, they goes 1-0 up, Morata scores, and all of a sudden that sparks Poland in the action, right? And I've got to be honest. And once Poland scored, obviously through Lewandowski, good hit. And you're sat there and you're going, right, there's only going to be one winner here. And they were knocking on the door. And then all of a sudden they were letting Spain back in again. Game finishes 1-1. And that was basically it. I mean, the only other thing to sort of highlight of note is that obviously when Lewandowski scored for Poland, I think about 5 minutes later, Spain had a penalty, and it was missed by Marino. And I think I'm right in saying that there's been something like 8 or 9 penalties awarded, and only 2 or 3 scored during during the tournament, which is terrible. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, where's your Gary Lineker when you need him? Like, you know,
there are some teams that have got players like Gary Lineker, and there are others that aren't. And unfortunately for them, they don't really have a Gary Lineker type, do they? As such.
No, but it's
not everyone has.
It's not. Look, it's not that I'm talking about. It's more the fact that so many penalties during this tournament have been missed by players, you know, with big price tags, and you know, you do. I think there's a lot of hype over players in this tournament who, so far to me, haven't delivered anything and look fairly ordinary.
Absolutely. So, the following game: Poland 1, Sweden 3.
Again, right? Again, it's like
not getting out of the blocks till they've conceded.
Sweden race into a 2-0 lead, right? And Emil Forsberg scores both the goals. Okay, I have to say there's a lad that I quite like, and it's the Swedish centre forward Alexander Iska. He's probably gonna cost a fair few quid, but I have to say I quite like him. So anyway, Sweden romped into a 2-0 lead, and you sort of sit there and you think to yourself, there's only going to be one winner, right? So for the first hour, Sweden in control, and then all of a sudden, Poland invariably wake up from their slumber, right? And yet again, the talisman, you know, gets on the score sheet just after the hour mark, and it's 2-1. Then Poland they're knocking on the door for this equaliser. Pressure. And then, bang, Lewandowski scores again, right? And you 2-2, and you're thinking, only one team's going to go on and win it, and you'd be right. But it was Sweden in the 4th minute of added time. And you kind of sit there and you think to yourself, that just sort of sums Poland up. And I tell you what, probably if Robert Lewandowski had his life all over again, his nationality wouldn't be Polish.
I think you're probably right on that one, to be fair. Absolutely. Yep. All right, I think that sums them up brilliantly. So that brings us to the end of the first half of the podcast today. So we're going to take a very short break. We're coming up in the second half of the Two Saints at the Euros. We have Saints Club news, Saints transfer gossip, other football news, and Two Saints look at our fixtures for the 2021-22 season. We'll be right back. Two Saints at the Euros.
Yes, no, go
right, everybody, welcome back. So coming up now, we've got Saints Club news for you. So Man United clash selected for TV. Saints B to face Yeovil Town. Wesley Hoot joins Anderlecht. Kane Ramsey joins Crewe Alexandra. Angus Gunn completes Norwich City move. And fancy Premier League prices revealed for Saints players. Also, Saints transfer gossip. We've got possible ins. Southampton reportedly wanting centre-back Shearer calls commanding. Southampton learn Neco Williams price. Brilliant £10 million player more likely to join Southampton and West Ham. Could Danny Roll return from Bayern Munich to Southampton? And possible outs. Aston Villa transfer. Villains reportedly keen on James Ward-Prowse's 29-year-old Southampton teammate. And that'll take us up to the other football news. So, starting with Man United clash selected for TV. Not surprised, but annoyed.
Yeah, I have to say, man, I mean, there could have been better timing, given that it's the first home game, okay? And, you know, for the club, it's a chance, you know, it's a selling game at the end of the day. But the thing is now that it's been selected for TV, it's going to be probably an even harder sell for the football club. And don't forget, we won't be back up to maximum crowds for a while yet. So, you just sort of sit and think it's one hit after another. But I would like to think that hopefully the TV money's going to cushion that blow somewhat for the club.
Absolutely.
But I know if I was head of marketing, I'd be pulling my hair out at this stage.
Absolutely. Well, given that the head of marketing's been working quite hard behind the scenes to try and generate income for the club, I'm sure he is pulling his hair out, Mark. And me and you both know who he is. But anyway, moving on to Saints B team. They will make the trip to Somerset in early August as they step up their pre-season preparations with a trip to National League side Yeovil Town. It will be Yeovil Town versus Southampton FC under-23s in a friendly at Hoosh Park, Tuesday the 10th of August at 7 p.m. Ticket details to be confirmed, and anyone who'd be kind enough to give Mark a lift up there, I think he'd very much like to go.
Yeah, I would, mate. I would. But, I mean, look, at the end of the day, obviously we're just advertising it so that Saints fans are aware, and hopefully they'll go en masse to the game because we haven't been able to see a lot of Saints over the last 18 months.
Absolutely.
So hopefully there's a bumper crowd and Yeovil reap the benefits of that.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So moving on to the next article, we're caught in a trap. Well, we're not caught in a trap because thankfully Alvis has left the building. Wesley Hoot has joined Anderlecht on a permanent deal, Mark. Oh, thank you very much. No. Anyway.
Where do you start with this one? I mean,
Bye, Wesley.
The thing is, and this is the reality of it, Wesley was not part of Ralph's plans. He may have been part of previous managers' plans. Mark Hughes was obviously an advocate because he liked the fact that he was left-footed and all that. But quite clearly, he wasn't part of Ralph's plans. He played in one friendly match, which, I think Ralph played him basically because it was back in Holland against Feyenoord in Rotterdam. And, it was the only game that he played under Ralph. So that more or less tells you everything that you need to know. Do I think he's the worst player at Saints? I actually don't. I actually think that there's other people on our playing staff that's worse than him. But the good news is that it's money off the wage bill. The only thing that worries me slightly is they would have had to come to some agreement because there was a year left in his contract. Obviously, it would seem that there's no money coming our way because he signed a 4-year contract with Anderlecht. But Mark, what I would say is, and this is the thing that we don't know, is that obviously for him to be able to move on, as I say, they would have had to pay up the final year of his contract. Now, they probably didn't pay all of that, but I would be interested to know what the payoff to him actually was, because obviously that still impacts on trying to bring new players into the football club or even players on loan for that matter.
No, I agree.
The one thing I will say is I wish him well, but it was certainly a case of the face didn't fit. And,
definitely.
And you would question whether he was good enough. I mean, okay, I turn around and I say to you that he's probably not the worst player on the books.
Well, in fairness, Mark.
But I don't think he was good enough for the Premier League.
Well, in fairness, look, they brought him in to partner Virgil van Dijk, didn't they? And if that had worked, what a partnership you'd have had. Let's not look at it that way. If that had worked, it would have worked brilliantly, and you probably would have had one of the best partnerships you've had since Font and Alderweireld. But obviously, it didn't happen.
True.
It didn't happen. So
True.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing. And as you said, face didn't fit, and it didn't work out for him. I wish him all the best, but I'm also glad he's gone. No offense to Wesley, I'm glad he's off the books. It's more deadwood out of the club, and that's got to be a good thing in the long run.
100%. The only thing is Mark, we know who we've got to thank for the fact that the dream team never came to fruition.
Yeah, cheers, Les.
Yeah.
Well done. Yeah,
thanks,
cheers, Les.
Virgil, as well.
Yeah, and Virgil. Yeah, cheers, both of you. Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks for the legacy.
Anyway.
talking to players leaving the club and those that probably should or shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. We've been in this position before. Matt Targett left Southampton. Other players were sent out on loan, definitely fullbacks. Kane Ramsey's joined Crewe Alexandra ahead of the new season, and also ahead of the fact that Saints don't have any right-back cover at the moment and don't have a left-back. This is a head-scratcher for me a little bit. I can understand why he's gone on loan, but for me, hold your horses until you've got players in. We haven't got players in yet. I genuinely hope the club have already addressed the fullback positions, because if they haven't and they've let another fullback go, we're in serious trouble, and we're going to be in more trouble than we were last season.
All I'm going to say is let's hope that those that are running the club and Ralph and everybody else concerned don't make the same mistakes from last season, right? Because when you look at this on paper, and I'm not saying that they probably have got their ducks in a row, but we don't know, right? And the simple fact of the matter is that there's a distinct shortage there. You would like to think that they already have their targets lined up and are talking to the relevant people. That's all I'm going to say on that. But let's hope that it's not a case of us scrambling around with days of the windows to go and we are arsing about. And I'm going to put it like that. You know, let's hope that, you know, people have to know. I mean, it all sounds at the minute like they know what their targets are. They know who they're looking to bring in and all the rest of it. And it would seem that those kind of things are in place.
Yeah.
But all you need is for one or two things to go awry and potentially you're back to square one.
Yep.
So let's just hope that everything is, you know, on track for what
Definitely.
Ralph's looking to recruit. And let's be clear about what Ralph's looking to recruit, by the way.
Yep.
Ralph has already come out and said he wants a right back, 2 left backs, a winger, and a striker. Those are the 5 positions that he's interested in recruiting this summer.
Martin Glover, Matt Crocker, and everybody else who's dealing with recruitment. Joachim Mahler scored for Denmark. Did you see the goal?
Hang on, you've been championing him before. They're still not listening to you, Mark. They're still talking about them.
Disgraceful. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. Honestly.
He's a
you think we needed a right back or something?
He's only about 6 or 7 mil. That's still a bargain in Saints.
Yeah. You'd think we need a right back or something. Anyway, moving on. Angus Gunn has completed his move to Norwich City. Managed to do his medical and get all that done without us even realising it had been completed. So well done, Angus. But yeah, look, I wish him all the best. Again, I'm not with Wesley. Hasn't worked out for Angus Gunn. I thought we had a genuinely decent keeper on our hands there. Looks as though we did. It all kind of went a bit pear-shaped for him. And again, it was your face doesn't fit. And in all fairness, I thought after the 9-0, it was a bit harsh on him, to be fair, because I thought the players in front of him were far more culpable. But there you go. Unfortunately, the buck stopped with him, and I felt sorry for him. I felt he bore the brunt of that. I mean, and I thought Yoshida did too.
You know, it's very much the same opinion. You know, you're only a goalkeeper's only as good as his backline to a degree. Although, you know, your last form of defence is your goalkeeper.
Look, I mean,
your last line of defence is your goalkeeper.
Look, I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had some great goalkeepers over at Saints in the past, and yes, I'll admit that Peter Shilton papered over a lot of cracks in the team he was in at the time, and Antti Niemi probably papered over quite a lot of the cracks that were in the team he was in at the time. So a good goalkeeper can paper over cracks, but in Angus's case, I thought he was a bit hard done by, and I felt sorry for him. I did genuinely felt sorry for him.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say from my point of view would be, I like you had big hopes whenever Angus came to the football club, because he actually came on the back of a whole season out on loan at Norwich.
Yeah.
And he'd actually had a really good season with him. And, you know, at the time I thought, good move, you know, maybe move. At the time it was maybe a case of moving Fraser on. Considerably high wages at the time, I would say too. So I'm gutted for him really that it didn't work out. But I think the thing is when you do suffer a 9-0 loss like that, Mark, right?
Yeah.
And it is unlike the the one against Man United this season, this
Yep.
last season. But when you suffer a 9-0 like that, unfortunately, people are going to be culpable.
Yeah.
And I did think that on the night, he was probably going to be a casualty of it. I
Yep.
certainly thought on the night that Yoshida was going to be a casualty, and it did turn out that way. I mean, Angus never played a competitive game again for Saints, and Yoshida only played one.
Right, and in all fairness as well, the player that was more culpable than anyone was the one that got sent off.
Yeah, no, very true. But no, look, listen, I wish Angus all the best. He's following, obviously, in his dad's footsteps. He's got big shoes to fill there because, if he works out to be anywhere as good as his dad Brimgun, then, Norwich know that they've basically had a steal off Saints. The only thing that bothers me about the deal, Mark, and then we're going to move on, is I hope, right, that in all these add-ons to make it up to 10 million, because from what I've read, we're only getting an initial fee of about 2.5 mil, and then it's add-on. I hope one of these add-ons for, say, £1 million isn't for Norwich to stay up at this season, because, you'd be sitting there thinking to yourself, that's all well and good getting £1 million off them as long as we're not going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yep, no, I'd agree with that. So we move on to the final story, which is Southampton's players. Their prices have been released for the Fantasy Premier League this season. Yep, it's begun already, everybody. There will be a two Saints league coming your way this year. So we'll have a head-to-head league and we'll also have a classic league. And they'll be set up. So keep your ears peeled because there will be coming along. Codes will be given out next week. So bear with us. We are sorting it and you'll get the codes next week for those. So looking at the list at the moment, goalkeepers for Southampton, the prices are Alex McCarthy, 4.5 million. Fraser Forster, 4.5 million. That's your goalkeepers. Defenders, Carl Walker-Peters, 5 million. Yannick Vestergaard, 5 million. Jan Bednarek, 4.5 million. Jack Stevens, 4.5 million. Mohamed Salisu, 4.5 million. These are all Fantasy Premier League prices, obviously. Not the prices they're available for sale for, because they're not for sale. Midfielders, James Ward-Prowse, 6.5 million. Stuart Armstrong, 6 million. Nathan Redmond, 6 million. Theo Walcott, 6 million. Musa Gineppo, 5.5 million. Nathan Teller, 5 million. Ibrahima Diallo, 4.5 million. Will Smallbone, 4.5 million. Oriol Romeu, absolute bargain, 4.5 million. And your forwards, Danny Ings, 8 million. Shay Adams, 7 million. Dan and Lindeloo, 4.5 million. And Michael Obafemi, 4.5 million. I don't know who he is either. But anyway, so those are your Fantasy Premier League prices for your Saints players this season. As I said, you'll be getting codes for our two leagues next week. So there we go. And that rounds up that section of the pod for today. So keep your ears peeled. As I said, you'll be getting codes for our leagues next week. And obviously, don't forget, the Premier League season kicks off on the 14th for us against Everton at Goodison Park. So we're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we'll do Saints transfer gossip. And we'll be back straight away.
Tune in to the Two Saints Show every Thursday 1 to 3 p.m. on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com with Mark Carter and Mark H. With regular features such as Saints match previews, Saints match reviews, Saints in the press, Saints transfer gossip, goings on in and around the club, corner chat and the week's other football news.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Saints transfer news. Southampton reportedly want centre-back that Alan Shearer called commanding. This is Nathaniel Phillips from Liverpool. And they've also been informed of Neco Williams' price, which is £10 million. I'd say sign both for Mark, but Nathaniel Phillips probably more of the one of the two they'd go for, I guess.
All I would say is in terms of Nathaniel Phillips, that we'd probably get in on loan. And that's if they wanted to bring him in on loan. But obviously the Neco Williams deal would be a permanent transfer. Yeah. I've got to be honest with you, Mark. Although it's an area we're looking to address, I think £10 million, Saints won't pay that. I think if you were looking at, personally, I think they're going to look at loaded in a right back, loaded in a left back, buying a permanent left back. So my take on it would be that they're going to load in probably a right back and a left back. And I actually think the price that's quoted for Nico Williams, while I sit here and I think he'd be a good acquisition for us, I don't think there's £10 million at the club.
Yeah.
Maybe if we didn't sign Theo Walcott, there might have been, but but there you go. You know, it's unfortunate because I think, you know, at the end of the day, you want players that are going to be pushing the players that have the shirt. In this instance, Kyle Walker-Peters, and it would certainly be, you know, a proper competition, which is basically, you know, what you want for your football clubs. You want a situation where,
Absolutely.
you know, it's two young players going head to head for positions. But no, I don't think that's happening. I think it's going to be a loan. But Nathaniel Williams, or Phillips. Sorry, Nathaniel Phillips. Let's get it right. Sorry, Nathaniel Phillips. I do think that a loan deal, it might be a possibility, but again, as we know, we're only going on what we're told.
Yeah.
You know, it would appear that signing a centre back isn't a necessity, but I would suggest that if there is a loan deal to be had there, I would bring him in. I'd seriously consider bringing him in if they can sort the wages out.
Yep, and talking of wages and talking of bringing players in, Southampton are the most likely Premier League destination for Blackburn Rovers striker Adam Armstrong. The Telegraph says of the reported West Ham, Norwich City and Everton target. Hour and a half to the Blackburn side containing the mercurial talents of Harvey Elliott, Joe Rothwell and former German international Lewis Holtby, not to mention arguably the most exciting striker in the entire division, finished 15th last season. Yeah. Interesting question. But anyway, dealing with the transfer. Adam Armstrong, 10 million quid.
All I would say is, Mark, you know, if you're not going for Nico Williams, right, for £10 million, and this is why I'm saying I wouldn't bother, right? If they have got £10 million there, right, this is an area definitely that you know I've spoke about with you on the show before, off the show, all over the place. And that is that there isn't any pressure, as I see it, no disrespect to Shane Long, but there's no pressure on Shay Adams and Danny Ings in terms of their starting berths as the strikers. Because there is a void, or there's certainly a gap between them and the likes of Michael Omofemi and Dan Lindeloo. Now, I know that's going to upset some listeners. That's how I see it.
Just fact.
I certainly think that if they were to sell both strikers, you know, I know that means you know you've got less of a squad again. But if there was an offer that came in, say for Michael Omofemi, and it was 6 or 7 million for the offset this deal, I would take it. And the thing is Adam Armstrong will be much, even though it's going to take time for him to adjust to the Premier League because it's a step up, right? All I'm going to say to you is Mark, it's a much more bridgeable gap between him, Shay Adams, and Danny Ings in terms of starting. You know,
well, so personally as well.
The thing is then you don't have a problem if one of your frontline strikers gets injured because you've got somebody that can come in.
I'd like them to bring Armstrong in as well for the comedy value, because the comedy value with the commentators during games, if Stuart Armstrong and him are playing and Danny Ings is playing as well, it'd be fantastic. Armstrong to Ings, back to Armstrong, Armstrong, back to Armstrong, back to Ings. I think it'd be absolutely brilliant. Or Armstrong to Adams to Armstrong.
I would love to see it happen.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. So, Aston Villa transfer. Villains reportedly keen on James Ward-Prowse's 29-year-old Southampton teammate, Oriol Romeu. That's funny. I thought they wanted Ward-Prowse.
I mean, who knows? But if this is genuine, then you're sort of hoping, let's hope it doesn't happen, because there isn't someone of the way that Romeu plays at the football club. And I do think it would be a significant loss to the squad. I mean, there are other players that get talked up within the Southampton team that I would gladly sell tomorrow. But Romeu's not one of them. Am I surprised that this link may have surfaced? Not really. I do think he's unique in the sense that, he's a combative midfielder.
Yep.
There's very few of them around, Mark.
Yep.
If you actually look at that kind of position that he plays, there's very few midfielders around like him.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
Ball winners, because Romeu knows he's not world class, but he knows he's good at what he does.
Yep.
And the thing is, winning the ball and, dare I say, giving it to somebody who can play is basically his forte.
Yep.
And the thing is he was sorely missed during the run-in because, he is a key player when you have, or looks like you may be getting involved in a relegation battle.
Yep.
He is one of those people that you can tie your mask to.
Yeah,
He's one of those players in those sort of situations. And boy, did we miss him towards the end of last season.
Yeah, we
things
did.
were going
100%.
slightly pear-shaped. Because I was out there going, no, I just thought it's an oversight. It's definitely an oversight on his part.
Right, Danny Roll, is he returning to Southampton? He's left Bayern Munich 2 years earlier than predicted, Mark. So,
well, is he indeed?
look, part of me would like to see him back at Southampton because he was a great help to Ralph. And I don't think Richard Kitch-Bickler or any of the other staff there at the moment are a massive help to him. So I'd like to see Danny Roll back, but I'm not sure if it'll happen.
I just think at the end of the day, Mark, I'll talk about the situation with Bayern Munich. I mean, they've got Nagelsmann coming in, or Nagelsmann coming in, however you pronounce it. And obviously he wants his own backroom staff there. So Bayern Munich, unfortunately, even though Danny hasn't been there, for a considerable time, because Bayern Munich tend to hang on to their backroom staff for a number of years, but obviously because, new broom and all that, new manager wants to bring in his own people. And obviously, Danny Rowell's a victim of that. Would I want to see him back at Saints, currently unemployed? I sit there and I think, why not? Why not? Because I look at him and if you watch whenever him and Ralph, interacted when he was previously here, it was plain to see Danny Rowell could suggest things to Ralph, say certain things in his ear. Maybe he hadn't have thought of it or things like that there. And it worked on that basis. And I've got to be honest and say, if I was Saints, I would definitely put the olive branch out there and I would bring him back because I just think that him and Ralph work well together. And like you stated previously, if Richard's worried about his job, they could always move him to, is it stats? What is it he does again?
Yeah, he's an analyst apparently. But I seem to remember a while ago, so Saints lost their head of sports analysis a while ago. She actually left the club. So there is a position there.
Well, there you go. Solves the prop. And even if he doesn't want to take that up that post, Richard can then pursue his, assistant role elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Or even just maybe bring in Danny Rowell as an additional coach. I don't know how it would work.
Yeah.
But do I feel there's a need there? Certainly.
Yeah,
Do I
100%.
feel there's a void there? Certainly.
Yeah,
Would I be
agree.
approaching Danny Rowell? Certainly.
Yep, I agree with all of that. Agree with all of that 100%. So, yeah, that covers Danny Rowell and whether or not he's going to return Saints. That's our views on it. So, we're going to move on to other football news now. Starting in the Premier League, Brentford versus Arsenal to kick off the season. Over to you, Mark.
So,
Rebecca Welch becomes the first woman to be added to the EFL ref pool. That's coming up in Football League news in a minute, Mark. So, sorry. So, Brentford versus Arsenal to kick off the season.
yeah, interesting game to kick off with.
Newly promoted
Obviously,
Brentford, obviously.
Brentford's first home game, Premier League, in their new stadium. Looking forward to going there. I think it's in April, May time we're due to go there.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, Mark. Arsenal losing that.
Yeah,
newly promoted team. Arsenal losing.
yeah, all the signs are there, mate. All the signs are there. And obviously, this is the reason why it's being televised, because I think, early season, banana skin country, here we go.
Newly promoted, yep.
And the other strange thing about that, and the other weird, wonderful thing about that is it's on Friday, the 13th of August. So all the omens, did you like what I did there? All the omens are looking good.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so moving on to Football League news, and this is fantastic news for the game, Mark. Fantastic news from our point of view as well, because we've been touting the women's game for a long time. Rebecca Welch becomes the first woman to be added to the English Football League referees pool. Brilliant news.
Super.
Hooray, finally, at last.
Yeah, and let's hope, the good thing is the dream ticket for me would be if Rebecca Welch, then came onto the Premier League list, right? And she recruited Sean Massey as one of her lines women or lines person. So no, all I would say is, Mark, let's hope, because obviously Rebecca's got a big responsibility on her shoulders. I'm not going to make it lightly, because obviously she will hopefully be the springboard for more women officials in the game, and certainly referees. And let's hope it's a successful time for her. I mean,
definitely,
if she does as well as Shauna Massey, and I keep saying about Shauna, for me, she's the best lines woman in the country, or lines person in the country, whatever you want to call it. Lino, the best Lino in the country. There you go. And as I say, if she's anywhere as good as Shauna Massey at her job, I'm sure Rebecca Welch will be a roaring success.
So, moving on, Hartlepool United returned to the English Football League as they beat Torquay United 5-4 on penalties, despite goalkeeper Lucas Kovlan scoring a stoppage time equaliser. Luke Armstrong's first half strike looked to have sealed promotion for Pools after Torquay's Carl Cameron had headed goals disallowed in either half. Kovlan headed in a 95th minute cross to send the game into extra time. What a game.
It certainly did.
What a game.
So where everybody else was fixating on Sunday afternoon about the Euros and what was happening and blah, 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 Mark was in a quiet part of the country, i.e. his living room, right? And he was
quite a part of the country,
listening through the internet to the radio commentary from, I think it was Tees Radio, obviously listening to this game. So it was playing at Ashton Gate, but a bit of a strange time to be having a playoff final. But anyway, so it was playing at Ashton Gate. There was crowds from both teams in. Torquay obviously were the trailblazers for the season, because they started the season really well, fell off, finished second, went into the playoffs. Obviously got through to the final. The opposition was the old Pools, Hartlepool. And I can't hide my delight at the result, mate. I think Hartlepool fans, be totally honest and say they took an absolute battering from Torquay, but they withstood it. They played some good football. Hartlepool played some good football early doors, but I think Torquay, for me, were totally dominant. Hartlepool rode their luck a little bit, which often happens in these finals. And hence, from next season, Hartlepool are going to be playing in the Football League, and I am overjoyed, even though it's one of the longest trips in the country.
Yep, that's following on from the fact that...
Unlike going to Newcastle, Carlisle and Middlesbrough, I actually look forward to my trips to Hartlepool because I love the stand that we sit in or stand in, which is the ice rink stand, because it is a very, very unusual design. And I'm very fond of Hartlepool. It's one of those clubs. It's very welcoming. It's got a social club. I think there's a social club either end as well. And they're very welcoming. And so hopefully, we'll draw them in a cup or something like that there when it's not regionalised.
It's great for Hartlepool as well. It's great for Hartlepool as well. They were relegated 4 years ago after 96 years in the Football League and made their return 4 years later, which is, so brilliant. They've got promoted and fantastic. Great news for them. And enjoy your trip to Hartlepool. So we're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll be doing Two Saints look at the fixtures for the 2021-22 season for Southampton Football Club. We'll be right back. Right, welcome back, everybody, to the last part of the Two Saints at the Euros podcast today. So, Two Saints look at the fixtures for the 2021-22 season. Mark's got the fixtures in front of him. The Saints kick off at Everton. First day of the season, 14th of August away at Goodison Park, Mark.
Certainly they do. And then...
Tough start. Tough fixture list, actually.
Yeah, just to say, Mark, and to get your own feeling as well, I actually think this is probably the hardest opening that I can remember for Saints. I think there's a little bit of respite when we come there. We've got 2 home fixtures in October. Not easy. The first one's not easy, and the second one's against Burnley. Then they've got Watford away, but there's a little bit of respite there for about a month. But I just think away at Everton, we don't win at Everton. Home to Manchester United, away at Newcastle, don't win at Newcastle. Home to West Ham, normally a draw. Away at Man City, we don't win at Man City. And you just look at that, and even though you got Wolves after that, and then you're away at Chelsea, and I'm just sat there and I'm going, we're just playing all the sort of top teams away.
Yep.
Or
me, Mark,
or teams that we don't do well at away.
Yeah.
All
for
in
me,
one club. I mean, normally you within your first 6 fixtures, okay, at the start of the season, you would at least get one promoted team in the first 6 fixtures. We haven't even got that.
Start the season like you started Project Restart, Saints. You'll do all right. You'll get more points than you'll lose. Yeah. Start like you ended the season, you won't get anything. Well, it's as simple as that.
We'll be starting relegation.
It's as simple as that. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Start like you did Project Restart, not a problem. You'll get points, and you'll get more points than you'll lose. Start like you ended the season, you're going down. It's as simple as that for me. It genuinely is as simple as that. And if you haven't got your ducks in a row, regards to players you need, you're in big trouble. We are in trouble this season if they haven't got it right again. If they've got it wrong again in this window, and if they've got it wrong behind the scenes again, we are in a relegation fight. Simple as that. We avoided it this season by the skin of our teeth.
Well, one of the things that I would say, Mark, is I always like to look, at the fixtures around about Christmas. And basically, Southampton don't have to travel further than London because during the Christmas period, I mean, early December, they're away at Arsenal, and then they've got a away game at Crystal Palace on the 14th of December, play Arsenal on the 11th of December, then they play Brentford at home on the 18th of December, West Ham United away on Boxing Day, And then on the 28th of December, they play Tottenham Hotspur at home. So, at least there's not too much travelling during the month of December. And they're at home as well on the 1st of January to Newcastle United. So they've got 2 home games, basically between Boxing Day and New Year's Day, which is kind of a good thing, because you're not basically having to travel anywhere outlandish during the Christmas period. So that's not a bad thing. And then basically you come to just taking in the last sort of fixtures of the season. So I'm looking at it and thinking, so April the 16th, they're at home to Arsenal. April the 23rd, they're away at Brighton and Hove Albion. Then 30th of April, they're at home to Crystal Palace. The last 2 fixtures, even the last 3 fixtures maybe, you wouldn't want to be going into those looking for points necessarily. Let's hope we've got it wrapped up by then, or we're playing in the Champions League by then, depending on what your take is. But suffice to say that the last 2 fixtures are tough ones. We're at home to Liverpool and away at Leicester City. So let's hope we're not needing any points, but we'll certainly come to the last 2 games. So that's effectively Liverpool's on the 15th of May, Leicester's on the 22nd of May, and before that, we've got a game on the 7th of May away at Brentford.
I don't think there's anything easy this season. And as I said, if we start in the right way, we'll be all right. But if we haven't got our things right and we've got it wrong again, we're in trouble. It's as simple as that.
Honestly, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Mark. I really do. I think, but the club need to make sure that they've got everything sorted out before a ball's kicked.
Yep.
Yep. But we won't. We'll still be staggering about. A couple of days to go. Like a drunk that's been thrown out of a pub, staggering about, looking
sad thing is, Mark,
to bring in.
Sad thing is, I'd like to be sat here 2 weeks into the season going, oh, do you know what? We've done quite well, haven't we, for the first couple of weeks? Something tells me I'm going to be sat here after the first couple of weeks of the season going, oh my God, here we go again.
Well, I hope you're wrong, mate. I hope more than anything that the club has everything, all their ducks in a row, everything sorted out, like I keep saying. But I just got an awful feeling in the pit of my stomach that going into the first game of the new season, we won't have everything in place. And like I say, we'll be like that drunk that's staggering about looking for a pub to go into. And, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I just, the eternal optimist in me says we're going to have a good season. But you have to think like that because a ball hasn't been kicked yet. A ball hasn't been kicked yet,
Well, no, we're Saints fans, Mark. We've got to be eternally optimistic. So anyway, that brings us to the end of everything today. So just like to say thank you for joining in for tuning in and listening in on the pod to Two Saints at the Euros, or the Two Saints podcast show as you normally know it. And it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me. Keep taking care of each other, looking after each other, and respect each other. And till next week, people. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and obviously join us again next week when the Two Saints at Euros go marching again. And also, thankfully, I think we'll be able to sit here and say it after England beating Germany. Right. Catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.